Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll masech this Kiddushin daf Beis. We're going to start at the beginning of the Masechta with the new Masnisin. Ha'isha niknis b'shalosh drachim. So the Mishnah tells us that a husband is able to acquire a woman in one of three ways. And the Gemara is going to discuss why this is drachim and advarim. V'kainis atzma b'shtei drachim. And once a woman is married, she can become free to marry another man in two ways. So the Mishnah says, Nikdes b'kesem ishtar b'bia, as we're very familiar with this famous Mishnah, the woman is able to get married to this man if he gives her kesef. We'll see how much. He could give her a shtar, even though that shtar, that document, does not have the value even of a pruta, ubabia, or having tashmish with her, which we're going to discuss whether or not that is the preferable method or not accepted really. So then the Mishnah says, but kesev, when it comes to kesev, we have a machlokas beishama yarmim b'dinner b'shava dinner. Misil yarmim b'pruta b'shava pruta. So the question is, what is the minimum amount? So according to the Shita Beis Hillel, he has to give either a pruta or shava pruta, which means he doesn't actually have to give kesef. He has to give something which is potentially shava kesef, something which has the value of some monetary value, which means if it's pachas mishava pruta, then it's not valid. Or according to the shita of Beis Shammai, he requires much more, a dinner, as the Gemara is going to discuss why. V'kamihi pruta, and how much is a pruta? Echa mishmeina be'isr hetalki, 1/8 of an Italian iser. Italki comes like Italy. Fine. As Rashi says, v'dam of shmeina prutos. Okay. V'kainis atzma, what are the two ways that she can be released from a marriage? One, of course, is beget, which we spent 90 blot going through in the previous Masechta, or V'misa Sabal. In the event that her husband dies, then also she's free to marry someone else. Hayavama, when it comes to a woman who had became a Yavama, namely her husband died and they were childless, so she marries his brother, so it's Niknas Babia. The way that it's done is Dafka with Bia. And once she's married to this person, she could be released if he dies, or even if he didn't do the yibum, but he could do chalitza. Now on this, Rashi points out an important detail. When it says that the din of a yavama is nikdas babia, liyos ki'ish lo chol davar, she's considered to be like your wife. Shim bo lagarsha, at that point, now she's your wife, and therefore you need to give her a get. When it comes to a yavam giving kesef or star, that's a din d'Rabbanan. The tikkun mahani bo maimer. This is considered to be Kiddushin maimer. That even though really he's supposed to do the din d'oraisa of bia, but if you did kesef or star, that's Kiddushin, that's maimer. Can I remember Yavamas of an enu gaimer ba mios yarshim atamula will partim in a chalitza el paisla al shar ach echav. So if he did kesef star, perform maimer, even though he doesn't have all the same connections to her, namely, he will not inherit her. If he's a Kohen, he cannot be tummy to her like a regular Kohen who to his wife, and also she's not pater from chalitza because she's still zokuk because he didn't do bia. All it does is apostles the other brothers. The fact that he did maimer, now the other brothers are not shaykh to do yibum. Okay. With that said, let's see question 1. Be'elu drachim niknis hayavama midrabanan. So he said with kesef and shtar. Indian ma moyel kinyana. How does it help? Moyel paisel min achen. So that's your first question on the Masechta. Let's see the Gemara. Ha'isha niknes. So it says a woman is nikne. So the question is, Maishna hacha dekatani isha niknes. So maishna hasam dekatani ish mekadesh. Apparently, we're supposed to know a Mishnah in 40 blot after this, arguably the longest parak in Shas, which is Kiddushin of 40 blot. So the second parak begins, Rashi says, Ha'ish mekadesh bo b'shluchai, that a man can do Kiddushin, either he does the Kiddushin or he can appoint a shliach to do the Kiddushin for him. So the question is, why over there does it say Ha'ish mekadesh, and why over here it says Hisha niknas? It should be consistent. So our answer is, because who needs to mention kesef, says Rashi. Bahani kinyanim, together with all these kinyanim, one of them is kesef. V'amrina kaman, and we're going to see later on that kesef anol, the niknas bo. How do we know that she can be kind with kesef? Mefarshinon, says Rashi, Gamrin and Kichagicham, so the Afron, which we're going to see now, Zerashava, the Ikri Kinyan, Hilkach Tana Hacha Kinyan. So, because we're talking about a Kinyan, just like Avraham with Sarah to purchase the field from Ephron, so too over here we use the same lashon. So, therefore, this is the answer. When a man marries a woman, and a kicha is called a kinyan. The field which Abraham acquired, as we continue Beis Beis, Yinami Sados Bekesef Yiknu. So again, the notion, this connection is because we want to say Ha'isha Niknas over here is because one of the kinyanim is with kesef, and kesef we use the language of kinyan, and therefore because of that we want to be able to use this language. So let's look at Rashi. So a question later on we're going to be asking. It's because we mentioned kesef. The kesef menon yalfin kaman mekicha kicha lashon kinyan. Kicha is a lashon of kinyan. Hilkach tani ha'isha niknas. Therefore, it uses the language of isha niknas as a kinyan. So the Gemara is not entirely satisfied with that answer. Again, as we continue to base with base. So the Gemara says, okay, so if that's the case, now we said this because we do. So Tani Ha'isha Niknas. That's the reason why we say Ha'isha Niknas. In fact, the Gemara, V'nisni Hasam Ish Kaina. Why over there it says Ha'ish Kaina? So why does it say the language Ha'ish Mekadesh? So the question is, why the kasha was, how come in the Mishnah here it says Ha'isha Niknas, and in the Mishnah later on it uses the language of, again, not Niknas, but it's Kiddushin, Hish Mekadesh. So Chayr Mekadesh sounds more logical because his name is Masechta Kiddushin. So your answer is, well, the reason why we say Nik kind of over here is because of Kesef, which is a Kinyan. So therefore we use that language. So we say if that's the case, then again let's remain consistent. And it's the Hasam Ish Kaina. So why don't we use the word Kaina over there? So Mikar Tani Lishna Deraisa, save Tani Lishna Rabbanim. This Mishnah mentions a lashon of Deraisa, which again is based on this Seres HaKasav. So therefore it uses Kaina. However, the second Mishnah we want to use the Din Derabanan, a language of Derabanan, which is Kiddushin. My Lishna Rabbanan, the Asal Kuli Yamaka Hektish. Then we answer her to the entire world just like Hektish. So Kiddushin, interestingly enough, has the notion of Hektish. So which means that when a person says Hariyat Mekudeshasli, you're saying you are Mekudish, you're Hektish to the entire world, Li, because you're married to me. Because otherwise it sounds like you're like Hektish to me, you're also to me. That's not obviously what it means. So again, why do we use this lashon d'Rabbanan and use the Ha'ish Kaina? So Ha'ish Kaina. So again, so over there we want to use a lashon d'Rabbanan. However, the question is, why don't we mention over here Ha'ish Kaina? Why do we have to say Ha'isha Niknas? You say Ha'ish Kaina. Why do we talk about the woman? Because she acquires herself. Taninami Reisha B'dida. So therefore he talks about her. So when this day Ish Kaina Machna, so why don't we talk about her, again, him acquiring her and him freeing her? Mishum de'ika misa sabal, the lav ihu ka machnim and shemaihu de machniwa. Because when it comes to one of the two ways that she's freed is my husband dying. So that's not something which was in his control. And since that's the case, therefore we don't want to use the language of ha'ish koine. V'boy sayim alternatively, itana koine havamina fil bakarcha. It almost sounds like, if it's ish koine, sounds like the man could forcefully marry her. Tan ha'isha niknis the medaita in shel medaita lo, that he can only marry her with her consent. Question 2. Ma'adua tani ha'isha niknis v'lo ha'ish koine. So why does it say, again, the language about a woman and not about a man? So he said, first of all, because we have the later part of the Mishnah, that in the Seifa, it says she's kindness atzma, the misas about the talia b'didah. It's not something which is really connected to him, it's been shemayim. Alternatively, if it said ha'ish kaina, you would think it's even about karchai, and therefore because of that reason we say this other language, which is the same as question TA 29. Madua katani ha'isha niknas katani hacha ha'ish kaina. So it's the exact same question, TA 29. Again, either because of misa sabal or because of, otherwise you would maybe think it would work bal karcha. Which TB 30 may be identical. Madua naka hatana lashon niknas v'kaina d'shayach b'dida v'naka ish kaina umachna shayach b'didei. So it's the exact same answer. Okay, that was TB 30. All right, let's put this in here. That was the same question. Okay, let's continue. So my area, the tani shalosh. So the Mishnah says, so we're really analyzing every word of this Mishnah. It says ha'isha niknis. Okay, we understand why we say the word niknis and not Kiddushin, because of kesef. We understand why it says ha'isha and not ha'ish, so it's consistent with the seifa, or the two answers we said. But why does it say b'shalosh derachim? Instead of shalosh, for the Gemara, lisni shloishim, Hashem t'gabolu misni derech, v'derech lashon nekeva. Because if we want to say b'shloishim derachim, derech is a feminine language. That when it comes to Torah, that you should know the way of the Torah. It says there's 7 ways in which you examine the zav. So over there it says the word derachim. So nisni sheva, so it should say sheva without a hey. Because actually derech could be male. And one way it'll go to you, and 7 ways they'll flee from you. So we have a stira in the psukim, because the word derech is a lashon nekeva, lashon zachar, or also when it comes to the Mishnah, the same kasha. How come in our Mishnah we're saying it's lashon nekeva, but when it comes to a zav, it's lashon zachar? So cry hadadil lokashin. Hacha the Torah koi, but Torah ikri lashon nekeva. The Torah is lashon nekeva. Nechsim Torah Hashem timim shivas nafesh. The Torah is complete; it restores the soul. So kasav b'lashon nekeva. Bahasam over there, the word derech in that pasuk is the milchama koi, is my war. The darka shalish lasos milchama, the darka shalish lasos milchama kasav b'lashon zachar. So it's the way of a man to fight. Men generally were the ones who were engaged in battle. So therefore, that's why the pasuk in that context is lashon zachar. So asnisa hadadi lokashan hacha the gabi isha koi. Our Mishnah is talking about a woman, isha niknas. So katani lo b'lashon nekeva. That's why it's written lashon nekeva, shosh drachim. Hasna gabi ish koi. Over there, we're talking about a man by a zav. The darka shel ishli badek. It's the way of a man to do a bedika, to understand his status of tumah. Ve'in darka shel ishli badek, and not a woman. Because a woman will become tummy even ba'inis. So tani lashon zachar. Right. So if you look in Rashi says there's 7 ways you're boitkin as a zav. So what are the 7 ways? B'machel, b'mishneh, eating, drinking, b'choili, b'maseh, so it's sick or lifting up a burden, b'kfitza, v'mar v'hirhor, shem machas ech mehem ra Maybe it's because of one of these things he saw. But onusu v'tahar, fine. So those are the shiva derachim. Those are the 7 ways your body kazav. Okay. Anyway, so the point is that that's lashon zachar, and that's the reason why it's written in that way. Weiter. Masnisin adadi lukashin. So we started already. Okay. Tani lashon zachar. Second wide line. So my time at Tani shalosh mishum derachim. So why does it say shalosh because of the derachim? So let's say devarim. Let's say shloisha. Why don't you say the word devarim? Why does it have to say derachim? So mishum tekabolu misnei bia ubia ikri derech. When it comes to bia, we use the word derech. Dechsev derech gever ba'alma ken derech isha mino efes. This is the way of a woman who is engaged in adultery. So this is obviously talking about bia, and the word derech. Therefore, since our Mishnah talks about bia, it's one of the ways that a woman is kaina. You can be kaina a woman. So therefore, because of that, we use the word derech. So hatenach bia. So kesav ishtar ma'ikol me'emar mishum bia. Because of bia. So v'tani tartu atachada. Which is interesting. Kashi could say the same thing. Well, over here, when we said, why is Ahisha nickness? Oh, because of kesav. Right? So you can ask the kasha, what do you mean? That's 1 out of 2, 1 out of the 3. So the same thing over here. Obviously, there's an answer to this question, but that's something to think about. So, Kesem Shtar ultimately will lead to Bia. Why does it say in this way the man takes the woman? It's the way of a man to go after a woman. And it's not the way of a woman to go after a man. A person who lost an object, so the one who's lost something, so who goes after it? So the Balaveda goes after that which he lost. So what is that referring to? So Rashi beautifully says, Aveda achas mitzaloisav, one of his ribs. So when Adam Harishon was asleep, so Hashem took one of his ribs and created a woman. So symbolically, it shows that a man is missing something, and therefore he needs to pursue a woman because that person will complete him. And that's the symbolism of the lost rib, if you will, of Adam. And therefore, that's the idea of Rav Shimon. He's explaining that's the reason why it says ki kach ishisha. That's the way of a man takes, and it says it's the derech. So therefore, since it's derech, so we use that word derech. V'adet nan bezayin derachim boitkenes azav. So he said 7 ways you're boitek azav. Listening to Devarim. So Hasam Hakamashwan, the darka lemechla yisero isudi ziva, the darka lemishne yisero lasudi ziva. I'm going to stop there. That when it comes to excessive eating or excessive drinking, this is the derech, this is the way that a person can end up becoming a zav. Adkan.